I know it's been bandied about that we're close, right? I'm not going to say that we're close. Close doesn't matter. Getting it done matters. But I will say that we have an elite defense. I will say that there are a lot of areas of the game in which we excel. But the offensive side has really hurt the production of this football team, and we got to get that fixed. We have to.
This is the Third Down Conversation. Let's talk about it. That statement from John Cohen explains Hugh Freeze's tenure at Auburn in a nutshell. And right now, several outlets and media people are piling on Freeze, piling on Auburn. But I've got a different approach. I've got a different question. Was Freeze's tenure at Auburn a complete failure? A complete disaster? No. And that might surprise some people. It wasn't a complete failure. Freeze was brought in to do three things: help Auburn get aligned, rebuild the roster, and win games on the football field. So is Auburn aligned currently? Yes. More than ever, actually. Look at the NIL. Look at the resources. Look at the facilities. Now, if we go back to the summer of 2022, Brian Harsin is Auburn's football coach. And probably a month or so before SEC Media Days, a nasty rumor came out about Harsin and some things he may or may not have been doing with a support staff member. It was believed that the powers at be, whoever they are, started these rumors and really shook up, let's say, Harsin's home life. Like it was nasty. It was some nasty stuff going on. Also, during this time, Auburn fired their AD. So if you look back at that summer, Auburn was a train wreck, a flat out train wreck. They had an AD that they couldn't wait to get rid of. They had a coach they wanted to get rid of so bad that supposedly they started rumors about the guy cheating on his wife. Like that's crazy. You really don't like a guy if you go into those extremes. And Harsin didn't help himself. He ran players off. He frankly refused to recruit guys. Refused. And in my honest opinion, he didn't want to be there no more either. And I don't blame him. I don't want to be somewhere where A, I'm not wanted, B, they're lying on me. So Auburn was a dumpster fire. It was bad. So the 2022 season begins. Things aren't going well. That same season in 22, Auburn's playing Missouri at home. And several fans wanted Auburn to lose. And Auburn wins because a Missouri player fumbles the ball as they're about to score in overtime out of the back of the end zone. And Auburn kind of stumbled into a win. So people were obviously upset. It felt like Auburn won, but it's kind of like, almost like how Auburn beat Arkansas like 2 weeks ago. People were like, man, we won, but a lot of fans wish they had lost. Going into that next game against Arkansas, Jordan Hare was bare. Auburn loses that game pretty badly. Harsin gets fired. Towards the end of that season, 2022, Auburn finally hires an AD, John Cohen. And John Cohen came in with a plan, came in with a vision. He goes out and hires Hugh Freeze. And Hugh Freeze continues to sell that vision, continues to push that plan. Those two together help get Auburn aligned in where they are today. Does that happen without Freeze? I don't know. What I do know is he was there and it happened with him. So you got to give him that credit. Did he rebuild the roster? Yes. The talent gap, it was bad. Auburn, again, Harsin did not want to recruit. And people try to compare Brian Harsin to Hugh Freeze and their winning records. And to me, that's unfair because Harsin was winning with Gus's players while Freeze had to play with Harsin's players. Harsin wasn't recruiting. All he wanted to do was talk about ball. And that's just, hey, it's not going to work. That was a Friday night. And instead of recruiting, Harsin went to go see his son play football at Auburn High. Now, I commend that. He's being a good father. But as a D1 coach, you got to make that sacrifice, big dog. You can't go see your kid play. I'm sorry. We need you out here recruiting. But that just wasn't who he was. I can respect that from a family standpoint. But you also have to understand that this might affect your career job. Like, this might affect you as a coach when you decide not to go out and see some players. Insert Freeze. And look, at Ole Miss, he was a great recruiter. He cheated at Ole Miss. We all know that. But he got guys in the door. He comes to Auburn, and within, the first couple of weeks on the job, he flips like 5-6 guys. He flips Keldrick Falk from Florida State. He flips Connor Lew from Miami. He flips Kane Lee from Ohio State. I mean, he was working. Like, working. Go into year 2. He flips Perry Thompson from Alabama. They was big mad about that. Big mad. Oh, they were mad about that one. He convinces DeMarcus Riddick to come to Auburn over Georgia. Lands Cam Coleman. I mean, he was really recruiting his tail off. 2 top 10 recruiting classes. And then the transfer portal, 2 top 5 transporter classes. He rebuilt the roster. You got to give him credit for that. Since Bo Nix, Auburn hasn't really had a bona fide quarterback. But Deuce Knight, I think Deuce Knight's going to be pretty good. Once he develops, he's going to be pretty good. He's at Auburn because of Freeze. So, again, you have to give Freeze that credit. And now Auburn, from a talent standpoint, they can go toe-to-toe with Bama. They can go toe-to-toe with Georgia or anybody else in the country. The roster is good. The roster is where it should be. The roster should compete for championships. And that's where Hugh Freeze falls apart. You begin to scratch your head about him as a coach. Because if you look at his record, he's 15-19 overall at Auburn. He's 6-16 in SEC play. Man, that's bad. And he started each season he's been in Auburn. This got to be a record. Or I don't know, but each season at Auburn, he started SEC play 1-5 each season. Those numbers would make you think that he was coaching at Vanderbilt. Like You can do better at Kentucky. You can do better at South Carolina. You can do better at Mississippi State. But those numbers will make you think like, oh, man, he was at Vandy? That's where you have to ask yourself, Freeze, what were you doing from an offensive standpoint only? Auburn's offensive ranks, let me just read it to you. They're 102nd in scoring offense. They are 108th in total offense, 119th in passing offense with those weapons, Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton. And third down conversions, they are 106th in the country. Even John Cohen said during his interview, had the offense been average, just average, Freeze still has his job because the defense is on fire. Auburn's defense has only given up 24 points max in every game. There are two other teams that can say that, and that's Indiana and Ohio State. Both of those teams are in the playoffs. Both of those teams are undefeated, while Auburn has 5 losses. Just an average offense. A scheme that the players can actually execute. That's all Auburn needed. And Freeze dropped the ball. Big time. There's a lot of speculation about, well, he's playing too much golf. I don't know. Frankly, I don't really care. You didn't get it done on that part of it. And that's why you got fired. So, was it a complete failure? No, not a complete failure. He just didn't finish the job. Now, who should replace Freeze? I've got 3 names for you, and I'm going to give you a sleeper one that I think should get some consideration, but we'll see if that actually happens. The first one I would say is Kenny Dillingham. He's currently the head coach for Arizona State. Arizona State was in the playoff last year. Seems to have a really good offensive system. It's a spread, kind of an RPO type, but they run the ball really effectively, and he knows how to get the ball to playmakers. He was formerly at Auburn in 2019 with Gus Malzahn as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. He didn't call plays at Auburn. We know how Gus was. Gus was not giving that up, but he helped Bo Nix have one of his best seasons as a true freshman at Auburn. He's currently doing great things at Arizona State. Again, they were in the playoffs last year, but they're currently they're 6-3 currently. And the reason why Kenny Dillingham could be a possible good hire is because, one, he's familiar with Auburn. 2, Auburn has a better NIL and resources compared to Arizona State. And lastly, he's a young guy who more than likely wants to prove he can do it at the highest level. And the highest level is not in the Big 12. It is in the SEC. If Auburn can land Kenny Dillingham and pair him with DJ Durkin, I think they can be on to something. Again, his young age, I think, is a benefit because you can start to look at, a situation where a coach is going to be there for a long time. Even with Freeze, had Freeze been successful this season, Freeze does have, that cancer issue he has to deal with. It's early, and hopefully they're able to, heal him and he recovers. But that was always going to be a year-to-year thing for Freeze. It was already starting to affect recruiting. Other schools are going to say what they have to say to get you to come to their school versus going to another school. So they were using that against Auburn, and rightfully so. It's a fair question. But if you compare those two together, Dillingham and Durkin with that defense, which is pretty solid. I'm not going to say elite because they got some third and long issues, but if you can pair that offense with that defense, can Kenny Dillingham win a championship? Not sure. But can he get them to the playoffs? Yes. And all you want to do is get to the dance. And after that, you see what happens. The next name I will mention is going to be John Summerall. Now, he's the betting favorite. Everyone is talking about John Summerall. John Summerall. He's currently at Tulane. He's had previous stops at Troy. So he's familiar with the Alabama area. I'm not so sure about him. I mean, he's a group of 5 coach. Seems to be a bit of a hard-nosed guy. Looks to be more of a defensive-minded guy. And I think it's imperative for Auburn to hang on to DJ Durkin. So I'm not sure these two would pair well with each other. I think if you go the Summerall route, there's a good chance you lose DJ Durkin, which will drastically impact the roster from a defensive standpoint. That will, I think a lot of guys leave. And obviously you want to be able to retain guys, which is why, you go get Dillingham, who's more of an offensive guy. I think you can hang on to those receivers. Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson. Maybe even get Eric Singleton to come back for his senior season. But you go get a defensive guy, I think you're going to lose most of the guys on defense and most of the guys on offense, which, look, that's just part of the game these days, but ultimately go with the best guy. And if that's Summerall, cool. Hire him. The third name would be DJ Durkin. And that's because, look, the defensive guys love him. His energy, his passion. During his introduction speech that he gave a couple of days ago, he seemed like a sure guy. And that's something that Auburn hasn't had in a couple of seasons now, unfortunately. He came out and said Derek Nick's going to be the play caller. He's going to be the only play caller, which is good because Freeze made it seem like they had 3 play callers, which sometimes Freeze was just way too honest. He also just named Ashton Daniels as his quarterback, which again it's the assertiveness of him. He's making decisions, and Freeze just seems so unsure of himself. He came out and said that it's not what you do, it's how you do it. He also mentioned that they're going to do everything with aggression and be aggressive each and every down. Players speaking highly of him from the offensive side of the ball and how he's, approaching practice with them and how, it just feels different. Durkin could be a good hire. Now, he does have a bit of a troubled past. He was, I think maybe 10 years ago, he was a coach at Maryland. And from a record standpoint, they didn't do great, but it's also hard to win at Maryland. But also something tragic happened, and he got cleared of all that. But, hey, that's there. That's there, and that's going to be a part of, his story. So be prepared for that if he does get hired. But I do believe if Auburn happens to miss on Dillingham and Summerall, a good fallback plan will be DJ Durkin. And I think a lot of fans would not be upset about that. Now, this sleeper pick, look, I'm a big fan of if you can lessen the power of one of your rivals, I say do it. Take that opportunity. And for me, I think that Auburn should approach Ryan Grubbs, who is the offensive coordinator for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I understand that, he's from Washington or Seattle, whatever the case may be, and he doesn't have many ties to the Alabama area. This is actually his first season at Alabama, technically. But that guy appears to be the main ingredient of Kellen DeBoer's system. In my opinion, he is the system. That offense did not look the way it looks currently last year. Surely he wants to be a head coach. That offense is high flying. It's creative. And he does an amazing job getting the playmakers the ball. If you can land a guy like Ryan Grubbs, he could get Cam Coleman to stay, Perry Thompson to stay, Eric Singleton to stay. He can also get you a bona fide quarterback in there. or develop one that you already have on roster, like a Deuce Knight. If I'm Auburn, I take a serious look at Ryan Grubbs. And at worst, I'm going to interview him and just see if he's interested. The worst he can say is no. But I got a feeling that he might be like, yes. To close out this show, let's talk a little college football playoff ranking. This past week, the first initial rankings were released. And to nobody's surprise, the top 12 is filled with the SEC teams. In fact, 6 of the 12 are from the SEC. Currently, no ACC team is ranked in the top 12, but obviously they will get at least one team in because of their conference championship. So I think maybe a Virginia or a Louisville, maybe even a Tech could possibly make a case to be top 12 currently, but that's not my biggest gripe. My biggest gripe is Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't play a soul. They're only there because of the brand. They played Miami, lost. Played A&M, lost. I don't understand how they're ranked number 10. All because you beat a fairly decent USC team at home. So I don't understand why Notre Dame gets so much of the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, it's a money thing. I get that portion of it, but still, I think there are other teams out there that are 6-2 that should be above them, like a Utah, who has only lost to BYU and Texas Tech. But for some reason, they don't get the benefit of the doubt. I get why Texas is number 11. You can't put them behind Oklahoma because they beat Oklahoma head-to-head. But look, Texas has been playing horrible the last couple of weeks. Almost losing to Kentucky, almost losing to Mississippi State. They're not playing well. But head-to-head should matter. I'm with that. Head-to-head should matter. However, I hate that that's one of my own criteria. So I'm kind of in a pickle on that one. But that one, they just don't look like a playoff team to me. Based on this list that I do see, the committee really values head-to-head, which I can appreciate because that means they have some sort of criteria, which we've been lacking for years, or it changes and no one really knows what's what. But based on this list that I'm looking at currently, Texas is above Oklahoma. They won head-to-head. Texas did. Virginia is above Louisville. Virginia beat Louisville head-to-head. And I can appreciate that. I can appreciate criteria. I can appreciate what the guidelines are. And as a fan, we now know what the committee is looking for, or has a glimpse of one of the key elements as to what the committee is judging each team off of. This has been the Third Down Conversation. I am D Turnipseed. Jesus loves you, and I'm out. Peace.